call before I do. Commissioner Farzan and Commissioner Sherm are excused absence, and also wanted to note that Commissioner McCormick has been appointed to the City Council. Congratulations to him. So he's no longer part of the Planning Commission. So with that, I will do a roll call. Commissioner Mason.
Present.
Commissioner Heising.
Present.
Vice Chair Radnich.
Present.
And Chair Labange, present. Can I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do we have any public comments that are not on tonight's agenda? And if so, before I do that, let me read one script real quick. Welcome to tonight's Planning Commission meeting. As a courtesy, members of the public may participate remotely in this meeting. Please refer to the meeting agenda for information about how to provide public comments, either in person here in the room or via teleconferencing. Any person may address the commission on any item listed on the agenda. Persons wishing to speak on an item listed on the agenda will be heard when called by staff. You're welcome to speak for up to 3 minutes. Public comments for remote participants on Zoom will be audio only. This means members of the public wishing to address the commission will be allowed to speak live. However, their videos will not be shown and screen sharing will not be an option. Finally, since the city cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and the option for the public to participate remotely is only a courtesy if technical difficulties arise from the participants using teleconferencing Zoom option, the meeting will continue unless required otherwise by the Brown Act. We appreciate your patience. We appreciate it. Okay. Do we have any public comments?
I will ask my colleague in the booth if there are any hands raised, and if anyone wants to speak under public comments, not on an item that's on the agenda, but an item within the Planning Commission's purview, not on tonight's agenda. Go ahead, raise your hand now. And I'm not seeing any.
Okay,
I'm having technical difficulties, but
we're good. Okay.
yes, we're good.
Okay. Regarding the consent calendar, does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent calendar or any public comments? I don't see those. Anyone? No? Up here?
I'll move the consent.
Okay, roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We don't have any continued public hearing, so we'll go to new public hearing. And staff, I think you're going to do our first one. If you would like to please take that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. My name is Anna. I'm the project planner for L521. This is a land use permit to allow the conditional use of a convenience market activity at an existing commercial building at 3667 Mount Diablo Boulevard. The property is located in the general commercial zoning district with the underlying land use of West End Commercial. And this prioritizes a mix of commercial, residential, and office uses. The building itself is currently vacant and has been for over 5 years. The project proposes to operate a Circle K convenience store in the space currently configured as an office. The site shares a rear parking lot with the adjacent office building and another commercial building at the rear, which is also vacant, though parking in this rear lot will be designated for employees and deliveries only. The applicant proposes hours of operation from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. with up to 2 employees per shift. Staff recommend a condition to limit the hours of operation to between 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. to reduce the potential impacts from late night operations. Physical site impacts are minor, as the only exterior work is to create ADA access from street level, connecting the existing sidewalk with the adjacent property, and constructing a lift at the rear of the store for employees and delivery access. The applicant proposes alcohol sales for off-site consumption, though staff is unaware of any recent ABC license application activity. The property owner would be required to comply with all conditions of the ABC license if granted. The project site is surrounded by a variety of uses, including office, a restaurant, a cafe, commercial, and multifamily residential. There are currently no convenience stores in the west end of Lafayette, though there are convenience markets in both the downtown and east end district. Currently, on-street parking at this section of Mount Diablo is not formally delineated through striping or meters. And the city's Mount Diablo Surface Seal Program, which was recently recommended by the Transportation Circulation Commission and is under consideration by the City Council, will establish angled parking spaces in front of the Circle K and neighboring Diamond K. This, excuse me, this parking configuration has been developed with consideration to cyclist and pedestrian safety, sight distance at the driveway, and will establish these parking spaces in the right of way in a formal manner. The Surface Seal project proposes 3 10-foot wide angled parking spaces and 1 12 to 14-foot wide accessible angled parking space. The applicant for Circle K proposes a parking design that is consistent with this Surface Seal project of the city and has consulted with both the city engineer and the transportation program manager in developing the parking plan. The applicant will make the street frontage improvements. However, the parking is in the public right of way and will not be reserved for customers. The site is within walking distance to the Lafayette BART station, several office buildings, and residential developments. The project's traffic engineer recommends restricting parking in the rear lot, shown in this image, to employees and deliveries only due to the one-way driveway and potential for entry and exit conflicts if customers were to park behind the store. This parking lot also serves employees of the neighboring office building and the currently vacant office building in the rear, which are both under common ownership with the subject property owner. The site is within 1/2 mile to the Lafayette BART station, and therefore the city cannot require parking for the new use under State Law AB 2097. The project is not required to provide any off-street parking for employees or customers. However, the applicant proposes sufficient parking at the rear for employees in addition to a designated loading zone for delivery trucks. The applicant provided a vehicle turn template with the traffic impact analysis demonstrating that the rear lot has sufficient space for a 20-foot truck to enter, park, back up, and exit the lot. Staff recommends a condition of approval to place signage directing delivery drivers to park in the rear of the store. If delivery drivers double park along the front of the store on Mount Diablo Boulevard, they may be subject to parking citations. In addition, to reduce noise impacts on adjacent residential neighbors, staff recommends a condition of approval limiting delivery times to between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Shown here is the front elevation along Mount Diablo. Signage is shown for context only and is not under consideration at this time. A separate sign permit will be required. No exterior changes are proposed at the facade, and the applicant does propose to install bike parking at the front of the store for up to 4 bikes. At the rear, the applicant proposes a new ADA accessible lift for employees and delivery drivers to access the store from the employee parking lot so that pedestrians don't need to use the drive aisle to go from the parking lot to street level. The remaining building exterior, including color, will remain unchanged. Staff referred the application to the Fire District, East Bay Municipal Utility District, Central San, the Lafayette Police Department, and the County Health Department, as well as the city engineer and transportation program manager. Staff received comments back from 3 of these agencies. The Fire District indicated that at this time they have no comments on the proposal. East Bay MUD submitted standard boilerplate comments regarding applications for development. And the city engineer provided comments with concern that delivery vehicles may still park in the roadway in front of the store, which would impact not only bicycle and pedestrian traffic, but auto traffic in general. And these will be addressed in the next slides in conditions of approval. Regarding public comments, the city also received a letter from the neighboring business owner whose concerns involve mainly the lack of on-site parking for a store that is expected to generate up to 50 trips during the peak hour. And in addition, they voiced concerns regarding the lift at the rear of the store and what would happen if it stopped functioning. The conditions of approval require the applicant to use the rear lift for accessing the store from the parking lot to avoid any pedestrian conflicts in the drive aisle. The applicant would be subject to code enforcement violation citations for violating these conditions, including double parking on Mount Diablo or using the drive aisle as a pedestrian walkway. Double parked delivery vehicles are also subject to parking citations. Regarding the lack of sufficient parking, the traffic impact analysis estimates that the store could generate up to 50 net new trips in the peak morning hour and 39 new trips in the peak afternoon hour. This accounts for vehicle, bicycle, and pedestrian trips, as well as for employees and deliveries arriving at the store. Context and location also play a part, as the site is located near many office buildings and residential development. This means many daily trips may be made by foot or on bike. The analysis found the impact on traffic at the nearby intersections to be less than significant. Staff recommends certain project-specific conditions of approval to reduce potential impacts from this new use. First, staff recommends a condition limiting the hours of operation to between 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. The proposed later hours of operation are inconsistent with the surrounding use of office and residential, and this earlier closing time will reduce impacts of late operations. Similarly, staff recommends a condition stipulating when deliveries may be made in order to reduce noise impacts on residents in the adjacent properties. No signs are permitted under this project approval, and a sign permit will be required before the applicant installs any signage. As part of the sign permit, certain safety and directional signs will be required, directing delivery drivers to park in the rear and directing pedestrians to avoid using the drive aisle to access the store from the back parking lot. Finally, staff recommends a condition of approval disallowing posters and advertising materials in the front windows, as this can become distracting and is incompatible with the surrounding aesthetic character. With these and other standard conditions of approval, staff can make the findings necessary for approval of a land use permit and recommends that the Planning Commission find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt Resolution 2024-03, approving the project subject to conditions. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Excuse me. Thank you. Does anyone have any clarifying questions for staff? Commissioner Mason, excuse me.
I'm sure it's there, but I didn't see it. What's the square footage of this project?
2,066 square feet is the upper floor only at street level.
So is there going to be a stairway out of the back?
It's not proposed.
How many exit ways does this have?
It will have the primary exit on Mount Diablo and then as a secondary, the rear lift.
That doesn't count for emergency access. You have to be able to, because if there's a power outage, then the lift won't work. So for 2006, whatever, you will need two exit passageways. I mean, you can go through your staff in the code, but I'm pretty sure that's the way the code works.
Sure. The building and fire code is not my specialty. I will allow the applicant to elaborate further. And the fire district, when they reviewed this, had no comments on emergency egress.
Okay. Because the concern is if they have to put a stair tower, then all your work on turnaround and everything else can fall apart.
Yeah.
Commissioner Heising?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Yana, for the staff report. I've got a few questions, actually 5 to be exact. You mentioned liquor sales, but are there tobacco and e-cigarette sales? I'm assuming going to be there too?
I'll let the applicant answer. I don't believe that is the case, but I'll let them say whether it is or
Okay.
not.
And then how many spots are in the rear lot? I counted 25 up to 27 with one was identified as an ADA spot and a loading spot. So if you take those two away, there's 25 potential spots back there.
That's correct. I believe there's a second ADA space at the rear that's also for EV charging.
Okay, so that begs the question, and this gets, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but this gets to the Diamond K letter. Are projects that have been to us before in the past that have been housing projects which have met the threshold to trigger the bonus density law, allowed developers to have concessions and waivers against parking. Can you explain to me, the commission and the public, how this other assembly bill you mentioned in the staff report allows the applicant not to have any parking if it's not a housing development, affordable housing development? I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the trigger is.
Yeah, I'll do my best. So AB 2097 does apply to new residential development as well as new commercial development. And this includes a change to a new commercial use in an existing space. So AB 2097 stipulates that cities cannot enforce minimum parking if the location is within a half mile to a high quality transit corridor, which the BART station applies.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question in between you?
Yeah, sure.
If it, let's say it was beyond a half a mile,
Mhm.
what would be the parking requirement? Do you know
I
what the?
believe it would be roughly 26 stalls. In the applicant's earliest proposal, because they initially submitted in 2021, I believe that was before AB 2097 went into effect, and they originally accommodated parking on site as required in the 26 spots in the rear. Based on their traffic engineer's recommendation that would create conflicts and the passage of AB 2097, the use of the rear parking lot for primary parking was abandoned.
Thank you. Commissioner Heisen,
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Vice Chair.
So, okay. A follow-up on that question. So if there's roughly 23 spots in the back that will not be for delivery or ADA, and there's 2 employees at a time, let's say they each drive, what are the other 21 spots going to be used for? They're just going to sit there empty for as long as this company is in business here?
I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that the property owner also owns the adjacent office building between Circle K and Diamond K. And I'm not sure how many employees are there each day, but that is a operational office space.
So the parking lot is used for both
Yeah.
buildings? Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
So kind of tied to this conversation, and I'll try to keep it as a question. The city engineer didn't think the one-way drive aisle was safe? Is that why they were fine with no parking for the public being in the back?
The project's traffic engineer recommended against having the rear parking lot be primary parking based on the number of trips that would be coming and going at any given time during the day and crossing the pedestrian aisle and the bike lane.
Which makes sense because the front could be primary parking, however, the back could be secondary parking. So when you say city's traffic engineer, is that city staff or TJKM staff?
TJKM hired by the applicant.
So the developer's traffic
Yes.
engineer. Okay. And here's my other next kind of related, I'm going beyond 5 questions here.
That's okay.
How many other single drive aisles are there in the city? And I'm thinking of 2 that are at least 2 between Roundup and Pastino that I use quite frequently.
Mhm.
And I'll keep it as how many do we have that are in use now? As the question.
I think driving here from the city offices to the library, I passed probably 2 or 3 at least along Mount Diablo. I think that's essentially where the buildings are densest, closest together with the commercial uses. I can't think of others that are further out east or west, but I also haven't been looking for them.
Okay. And then my next question is, when I looked at Google Maps from the aerial view, I I was looking at some, and this is getting to the public notice of only 300 feet. And I've asked this question before in the past. I know our rule of thumb is 300 feet, but there's no reason we can't go more. I think we went out a larger radius on certain projects. I'm looking at Songbird Court, West Road, and West Creek Court, all off Mountain View Drive. And then also Mosswood gets pretty close to the property. The properties across the street, those they're not occupied yet because they're still in construction for, I don't know how many years it's been, but that's a sidebar comment. But yeah, Woodbury Highlands down the road too. So I'm wondering, I guess we're not having another public hearing after this unless there's an appeal. I'm wondering why we couldn't cast the net a little further and capture more people. How many, because the staff report said no one responded. So I'm wondering if we went far enough out to solicit enough good feedback from residents. Because commercial businesses, well, commercial and residents could both have comments.
Mhm.
So that's my question.
I'm not certain as to the increasing the radius of the mailing, but for land use matters that have the potential for impacting citywide residents that might not live nearby, we do post a legal ad in a newspaper at least 10 days before the public hearing. So that was posted in the Friday edition of the Lafayette Sun, I believe about a week and a half ago.
Okay. And then my last question, sorry for so many questions. In the Diamond K letter, there was a concern about the duration that a person could park in the stalls in front of either of the two commercial properties. And that brings up the question in my mind, could they be metered parking? Because we have metered parking on Mount Diablo up and down, actually as close as Trader Joe's, which is just on the other side of the intersection.
That could be metered parking. And the parking that is going in at the Brant across the street will also be metered.
Okay.
So it won't cause any burden on enforcement or anything like that. Currently, the meters that we have installed are 2-hour meters. So that would still be the standard maximum length of time under those meters.
Okay, thank you. That was all I had. Yes.
I'd like to just add that the next building down, I think it's 3663 or 3661, has parallel parking in front of it, which is metered.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the meter in Google Street View. So the police have advised that metering the spaces in front of the proposed Circle K or even Diamond K would not be a burden on their circulation and enforcement. And Anna mentioned that the angle parking across the street, once that project is done, will also be metered. The 300-foot radius, so Anna mentioned that there was a public notice in the newspaper. Not everyone reads the newspaper, but it was also included, the summary of this, in our weekly roundup electronic newsletter that goes out. So subscribers there would also be informed if they read that. The 300-foot buffer goes past the driveway into the city offices westward, certainly across the street to the north, over to Trader Joe's on the east side, and includes Songbird Court and properties down to West Road. If I'd be happy to put up the exhibit, it would take a moment to switch the
Okay,
board.
so it sounds like I got those streets off of Mountain,
Mountain View, yes.
yeah, off of Mountain View. And did it get Mosswood too? A portion of Mosswood?
I'm gonna double check. The only property that didn't get captured, oh no. Mosswood, which is part of Village Center?
Did I look at?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Mosswood, because the tail of it comes all the way over just south of,
Yeah, no, that's across the creek.
okay, it didn't go that far.
Doesn't go
Okay,
that far.
okay.
The one property that just eked beyond the 300 feet is the corner property at Mountain View and West Road with the avocado tree.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I think that's answers all my, well, one last question related to your last comment. So would Transcirc be the appropriate body to look at meters in these parking stalls, and it's not a part of this application? Or if the commission had thoughts on that, should that be brought up now and made a condition of approval? Or is it the larger metered parking plan by the city?
Yeah, I think taking decisive action on what those meters should be this evening, we would recommend against that because we haven't analyzed that or provided context to the commission. My understanding is that the Transcirc has previously been the commission to review and opine on setting meter durations or curb time limits in consultation with engineering, public works, the transportation planner, and police. So we're not at that, we didn't bring that to you. So we could certainly take a recommendation from the commission this evening and convey it. It wouldn't necessarily be a condition, but the spaces are city spaces, so we could take it through our process in through the city process, which would be a public process.
Okay.
But
Got it. Thank you. That was it.
Vice Chair?
Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot. When I flipped through the 2002 general plan, it looked like this site was identified as an opportunity site. When I flipped through the housing element draft EIR, it seemed like this site fell into an opportunity zone. Can you please just clarify if the site is currently being considered as an opportunity site under the housing element update?
Yes,
I know there's a lot of updates to it.
it is correct. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So when we have our deliberation portion, I'll expand on that. So thank you.
All right. There are no more clarifying questions. Applicant, if we have an applicant here, please come on up and tell us what we're doing.
Good evening. My name is Muthanna Ibrahim. I'm the architect for the proposed Circle K tenant improvement. I would like to start with addressing some of the questions that we just heard. The first one regarding the second exit. The code in 2016, the CBC code got changed. Before then, we need two exits. After 2016, this building, this floor plan, 2,000 square feet, 2,066 will require only one exit. And we have that one exit at the frontage behind the sidewalk. Regarding the parking, I think you mentioned 26 parking stall required before the state assembly. Actually, according to the zoning ordinance, it's required 3.3 per 1,000. So the required parking is 6.6 for the convenience store. We have 26. We're counting the existing office, which is 17.32. And also there is a vacant office and a storage, 1.6. So the total is come around 26. But the share for the Circle K is only 6.63. But then after the state assembly, it's up to us. Let's see if there's another question here. Regarding the duration, the expected Circle K customer in the store is only 5 minutes because they're gonna buy a drink and snack. That's it. There's nothing else. So I would like to distribute the layout of the parking that we
Thank you. Yeah, why don't you give one to staff just so that they can see what we're looking at?
So anyway, as you see, this is the angle parking that proposed by Public Works, and we agreed with it. We worked with them to provide at least one accessible parking stall. We show three parking stalls in front of the Mr. Ahmadi's office and the proposed Circle K, in addition to one ADA stall. The majority of the customer that gonna come to this proposed Circle K, they're gonna be pedestrian. That's how we design it from 4 or 5 years ago. Because we know that the apartment coming across the street, there is apartment next door. And also downtown Lafayette, there's a lot of pedestrians. So we're counting about a lot of pedestrian customer that comes to the store. We expect about 250 to 300 customer a day. And with that said, and the duration of each customer 5 minutes, we don't think 3 or more than 4 parking stalls required to run this business. Therefore, we are requesting to have, if it is possible and accepted by the city, in front of the Circle K, the meters will be 10 minutes because our customer does not need more than 5 minutes. The lift in the back is intended for accessible lift, and it's intended for the employee and also the delivery. If it breaks like any other elevator in an office building, it will be fixed right away. The delivery truck, it has been, set, and we're gonna have it in the back of the building, not going to be on Mount Diablo. And I have today our traffic engineer, if there is any question regarding the traffic study. And I'm available here to answer any question you have about the design of the store.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any clarifying questions from staff? I mean, from council? Planning Commission, excuse me. Commissioner Heising?
Just wanted to ask the applicant to clarify your question on tobacco sales, if there will be any.
Okay, great. I'm assuming that there is tobacco sale, yes. Usually any convenience store, they sell tobacco.
Commissioner Heising?
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, because my understanding is tobacco makes as much money or makes,
Yeah.
it helps the business pencil out with the liquor sales. But my question is, something you just mentioned about the lift. You said if the lift is just for the employees who park in the back. But if the power goes out and one of your employees is disabled and is in a wheelchair, how are they going to get to work?
There is next door, the owner has an elevator in his office. They can use that. Because the owner of the office next door, basically that's his business, doing Circle K. He has gas stations and stuff like that. So there is an elevator, inside his office that goes to the second floor. It's the same as if you have an office building and somebody on wheelchair and the, power went off, they cannot use the stair.
Mhm. Yeah, because I'm presuming the slope of the driveway is such that you can't get up.
Yeah,
In a
no,
wheelchair.
you cannot.
Okay. That was my only question.
Commissioner Mason?
I'm sure you don't have this, not to put you on the spot, but I was gonna look it up anyway. Do you know the code section for the exit?
Should be chapter 10, and basically to do with the occupancy, the occupancy got changed in 2016 from the factor 30 to 60.
Okay.
I do this all my life, so
No, I know you do. That's why
yeah,
I thought you might have it. I only do it part-time.
yeah, that's the reason. So the occupancy of them of them occupancy went almost to half.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
Nope.
I just had a couple of quick ones. You mentioned that, I think you said most people will walk. I want to understand that more. And so,
Sure.
250 to 300 customers a day roughly. So how many of those would walk? And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but
According to the owner, he's telling me the majority of his customer going to be pedestrian from downtown and the apartments around across the street and to the east of us. And he said, even if somebody driving want to stop at my store, and there is no parking, they just drive away. They go to the next convenience store. It's not a big deal. We lost that customer.
okay. And then deliveries are going to be in the back.
In the back, yes. And we have a letter from the owner and staff has a copy of it.
And then, I'm a little concerned about that. I don't think delivery people are gonna drive down that thing. I know staff had said they would be fined or there could be ticketed or something.
Yeah, but, it's in the condition of approval
Yeah,
and the owner knows about it and we're fine with the condition of approval
okay,
and we're gonna do it.
okay. All right, we have another question from Commissioner Heising.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. This
Thank
is
you.
helpful, this dialogue. So related to the truck, you're fine with that condition of approval and a 20-foot truck? works
Yes.
With your engineer, put a turn template down there and it
Yes.
all works. I'm thinking about 7-Eleven when that ice truck which delivers ice to 7-Eleven is this big truck. I think it's a 2-trailer. It's either one container, but very large. It's definitely more than 20 feet. So
Yeah.
you're saying that all the delivery trucks will be 20 feet or less?
Okay, so the owner of this proposed Circle K, he owns a lot of stores and gas stations. So they customize their delivery based on the site. Like, for example, if they want to deliver fuel to site that very tight site in San Francisco, they cannot have the big semi going there. They go with small truck and trailer. They will customize for each site. I've been told, and I have it in writing, that they're gonna have a 20-foot truck come in and deliver for this specifics. And that store is not big. 2,000 square feet is not big. What they gonna sell there? And just coffee, drinks, and some snacks. That's it.
Well, bags of ice aren't big either, but the truck that 7-Eleven brings ice in is huge, so.
Probably they have a bigger lot.
But they park in the middle of the street in the double left turn lane. So anyhow, that's my question. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So now we will open this up for public comments. Do we have any public comments either in here or on?
I will need to rely on my colleague in the booth. Are there any public comments? It looks like she's indicating yes. Terrific. Thank you for enabling him. So Bill McGrath, I think he is the gent who submitted the letter for the record, which the Planning Commission has as of, I think, Friday. So you've all seen it. So Mr. McGrath, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. I guess you can't see me, but I hope you can hear me. Can somebody wave their hand if they can hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. My name is Bill McGrath. I'm one of 3 McGrath family members who own Diamond K. Let me introduce in the audience my sister, Ann McGrath Coleman. She'll wave her hand. She's there. I'm stuck in Reno and have a meeting today in Reno and a meeting tomorrow, so I apologize for not being there in person. My family has a lifelong connection to Lafayette. We lived across the street from Diamond K on Dolores Drive at 1040 Dolores and 1098 Via Roble. My sister, brother, and I all went to Acalanes High School, went to all elementary school, middle school in Lafayette. We have been associated with Lafayette our whole lives, and we love Lafayette. Our business has been there 88 years, 76 years owned by my parents. My brother then took over after my father died. My brother died way too early in 2017, and we have a good general manager. I'm a practicing lawyer. I'm the family lawyer for the business. So I'm speaking today as the president and as the family lawyer. We're in a very odd position today because Diamond K always supports Lafayette businesses. We have, to my knowledge, never opposed a business. But frankly, this proposed use of this unique property with a too narrow an alleyway next to it that won't allow, the city says you can't use the parking in back, that forces the 614 daily trips onto the public street and the public right-of-way. The one comment Ms. Toll never mentioned was that the traffic report predicts 614 daily trips. I about fell out of my chair when I read that. The gentleman, the architect who just spoke, the gentleman just said that under the code, we would only need 6.6 parking spots. There's only 7 parking spots there in front on the right-of-way with 1 additional handicap parking spot, van accessible handicap spot. My letter that I sent on Friday, I apologize for its length, but this is a little bit of a do or die day for Diamond K. We're worried about being able to get our people to park in front of our store. If it's full of customers coming in 1 every 2 minutes, according to the statistics, coming in and out and filling those parking spots, the bottom line is we're not going to have any parking. The convenience store will have people getting their coffee. They'll be, and everybody who parks has to back out into the oncoming traffic because of the diagonal parking. The owner claims there will be delivery in the rear. I really highly suggest you listen to Matt Lettrop. He's the city engineer, or he's the manager of the engineering division. He has predicted, is that my time?
It is. If you want to,
I will be quick. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I have a lot to say. The bottom line is, this is the wrong location for a convenience store. If it should be down there by Trader Joe's, by the CVS, or somewhere where there's lots of parking. This is shoehorning in a convenience store where there is no parking except as allowed by the city plan. Diamond K, it's true that the AB 2097 says cities are restricted from imposing parking minimums, but you're the conscience of the community. You, as the planning commissioners, have to make findings. And I really highly suggest that if you look at finding E, you have to find that this proposed use will not create a nuisance or enforcement problems within the neighborhood. And politely,
Mr.
I like to
McGrath,
see,
Mr. Graff, if you could wrap it up in the next 10 seconds, please.
I will. I believe you can't make that. I believe you can't make that finding. And I would urge you to deny the application because you can't make the findings. I'll be available here if you have any questions of me. I apologize for going so long. Thank you for your time and your service to our community.
Thank you. I will say, if you would like to put a card in, you can yield your time to your brother if you would like. But I think I think I understood what he said. But that's up to you. Do we have any other public comments? No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Would applicant like to respond to anything, public comments that you've heard?
Well, as
Oh,
I mentioned,
I'm sorry. I forgot one thing. Was there, I'm sorry, one thing. Did anyone have any clarifying questions for Mr. McGrath? Okay, thank you. Okay, please, applicant.
okay, yeah. So as I indicated, we're not going to need much parking for our business to work. Before the state assembly, all were required 6.3. But after the state assembly, we're not required any parking. And, also, as I indicated, all our customers, they're going to be mostly pedestrian. We have a apartment building coming up across the street. We have apartment building next door, and we are on downtown. There is a lot of pedestrian. Like I say, if somebody comes and there is no parking, they can drive away.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see. I think we are going to, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Planning Commission, yeah, close. Okay, I'm going to close unless we have any other. I'm going to close public comments now, and then I'm going to bring it back to the Planning Commission to deliberate. So with that, Planning Commissioners, do you have anything you want to discuss or deliberate now? Commissioner Heising?
Yeah, I'll make a couple initial comments and then as the discussion progresses, I'll make some other comments. Especially when we get to the conditions of approval, because I think there needs to be some tweaks on the conditions or additions to the existing conditions. First off, regarding Bill, I want to thank Bill for his comments and regarding his statement that this is the wrong place for a convenience store. I respectfully disagree. I think the location is good for this store because of all the residential being built on the west end. I think people will walk to it. However, and I think, let me stick to this theme, and it's also consistent with the general plan and the downtown specific plan. That leads me, I'm hung up on the parking is where I'm hung up, and it leads me back to I want to penetrate into this AB 2097 a little bit. The bonus density law has concessions and waivers, and there's certain number of asks that a developer can make. One, I can't remember which one. One was unlimited and one was limited. I haven't read Assembly Bill 2097. I get the gist of it. Are there any is there anything that limits the non-parking, not having a parking requirement?
The only times a city can enforce a parking minimum where it otherwise would be exempt is if the city can make specific findings that not allowing the parking would have a negative impact on our progress toward our regional housing needs allocation for our housing element. And the city must also make the findings that not enforcing parking minimum would significantly negatively impact other commercial or residential parking within a half mile.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
That's my initial comments.
Any other commissioners have comments? Commissioner Mason?
Yeah, I'm having trouble, not so much the number of parking spots, just the whole thing about parking and deliveries. I mean, let's face it, anybody who's been in any decent sized city, they always double park. I particularly have problems with the diagonal parking. With parallel parking, like at the east end of town, you can see bike riders. My fear is you've got a delivery truck that's double parked and a bike rider either has to go into the left lane or cut between the diagonal parking spot and the delivery truck. And let's face it, people back out, they can't see a bike rider and there's no escape avenue for them to swerve into traffic and try and miss it because the truck's there. You can put whatever you want in the requirements, but hey, for a lot of delivery drivers, tickets are just the cost of doing business. And that's a little bit, this one's a little bit tough for me. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
So I would just like to ask staff to clarify the diagonal parking and the bike lane and everything, is that proposed by the applicant or is that tied to the city improvement project?
Both. It is recommended by the city as part of the surface seal project. And when we told the applicant that, they modified their parking from perpendicular, which was encroaching into the bike lane, to angled, which no longer encroaches.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'll just go ahead and share a couple initial thoughts so you can get an idea of where I'm sitting with this. I'm having a hard time making the findings for A and E. I'm very frustrated that there was one public comment received on this project that is going to affect the entirety of Lafayette. So I understand that staff did the outreach and it's in the email, the roundup and everything. I just ask our community to do a better job, if you're listening, of participating, because this project is going to affect everybody and there's going to, I'm just predicting, be a lot of people in favor of it and a lot of people against it once it comes out. So to me, that's disappointing from a community standpoint. The couple things, yes, there are apartment buildings nearby. So I know it's kind of opposite of what you're saying. There are apartment buildings nearby where people will be walking from. That's a lot of Red Bulls that people are buying during the day to walk over there. I think what's going to happen is going to be everyone who's using Waze, who's cutting down Mount Diablo, is going to pull over, try to stop there. The parking, the fact that it is in the public right of way, therefore means it is not reserved specifically for this building. I do appreciate the comment by the applicant's team that, oh, they would like to see 10-minute meters there, but those are city meters for anybody to park for any reason. They can use Diamond K, they could not, they could use Circle K. They could use other businesses in the area. I think it's interesting that the applicant's own traffic engineer identified a safety issue with the parking. And of course, they're doing their job, right? They're a great firm doing their job. Let me just see here from my other notes. The lift, I did not appreciate the response. I do understand that the current owner of the adjacent parcel happens to be the same owner as the project, but we would never have a project where, let's just use a couple, I don't know, where project A, business A, their lift goes out, so they go next door to business B at a completely different owner to use the lift to then come over to the project site. I do agree with like the double parking for the trucks, the deliveries. Even when you're at nighttime driving down Mount Diablo, trucks are double parked continually and there's no traffic out and they're still double parked in the lane. Personally, I mean, I understand the business model, tobacco, liquor. I understand that, no matter my personal opinions. The other thing is it's a housing element site, which I know doesn't mean that we can't recommend it, right? That has nothing to play into it. I just know one of the criteria when identifying some of the sites are there viable, businesses that are a chain that are, going on, that are currently in business at a parcel, and those couldn't be identified to HCD for a site. I understand that's a slightly different topic, but something that came to my mind. So for some of those reasons, that's why I'm having a hard time making the findings for A and E.
Thank you. And I'll say some stuff and it's not over, but I do want to say some stuff. I'm trying to remind myself, and so I'll say this out loud for all of us, irrespective of the use, um, you know, let's imagine that this was cancer treatment and there was 650 people going there and whatever the time zone. How would we look at this? Well, one thing I would say is they probably would park in the back because they probably are going to be there a while. And so maybe it would be more economical to, in that situation. And I'm only saying that to say it doesn't matter who the use is. It doesn't matter whether we like it or don't like it. That's not part of what we're discussing. And that's not really part of our decision. But what this does do, in my opinion, and my day job lets me kind of see this a lot, is parking for this use is key. I do not believe this will be all pedestrian. I absolutely do not think that will behave that way. So if you take that rubric, then parking's key, and parking is not enough. So is this a good spot for it? I think it's a great spot for it if it had enough parking. I don't think it does. So can we stop it on that account? Not necessarily, but when we do look through the findings, there are findings that can say, well, it will cause a nuisance, and I'm specifically talking about E. So in my mind, there's no way I can support E. This will create a nuisance. I think Vice Chair brings up a great example about trucks double parking, and that's just how the delivery world works. They do not, even when it's easy, they're not going to do it. They're going to do the easiest path, which is right in front of the store, right in the front door. I know that. I see that day in and day out in my day job. That's how it works, no matter what the city says. So this will just be another truck stop right out in front. So while it'd be nice if they'd go in the back, they're not, in my opinion. So those, unfortunately for me, I'm still stuck with, and then I think, well, how would I treat this if Diamond K wasn't there? Because it's not about Diamond K either. It's about just the community and that. Well, so forget it that it's Diamond K. There's a business use there that's living off the parking. So if the city were to allow us to say, okay, these 4 spaces could be designated for this user, I might think differently, but from what I've heard, we can't do that. So we're back to 1 parking, not enough parking, and 1 use who I think is going to overuse it. So for those reasons, I'm struggling with this. So I'm going to stop now and see if anyone else has any other comments. Commissioner Heising.
So when I said earlier, I'm stuck, I'm hung up or stuck on the parking. I say that with this kind of in the context of what you just said. I totally agree with you. There should be more parking. I just don't agree with AB 2097. And there's no, based on the questions I asked about, there's no, for lack of a better word, there's no workaround or a loophole. There's no way to figure out how this assembly bill doesn't apply, because it's not tied to housing, because it's a commercial operation. And back to creating a nuisance enforcement problem with the neighborhood. I mean, if you look at the commenters made a comment about lack of parking affecting their business. Well, let's look at the facts here. There were 5 spots in front of Diamond K. Now there's 4. So it's net 1 loss. So I personally don't think it's affecting Diamond K as much as the commenter is stating. And to be honest, it's public parking. There's limited public parking in the city. And if people have to park a block down and walk to Diamond K to pick out their rocks or bricks and then come back later and use the loading zone to load it up, sorry, that's just how it is. If you've got to walk, if Waze is having you come down Mount Diablo and you're like, oh, I want to stop and get a soda, but those spots in front of Circle K are full, you're going to say, oh, screw it. I'm just going to go home. I'm going to keep going. Or I'm going to go to Trader Joe's and park and walk back. Well, do I really want to do that? I don't think I do. I'm just going to go home. So I don't really buy that either. So what I'm saying is, I don't like the fact that there's not parking. I disagree with the traffic engineer from TJ Cam. I think a one-way drive aisle works because I use them in this city and they work. You just have to be careful. And be courteous to, if you see someone coming at you, you just you gotta figure out, okay, hey, I'm gonna back up so you can come through and then we just share the road. So those are my thoughts on parking. I think we can't penalize, back chair, what you said. We can't penalize, I agree with you, it's a good location, but you said if there was enough parking. I don't think we can penalize the applicant for this location of this use because there's not more parking just because we don't like it. I think we can't, AB 2097 has got us stuck. I'm gonna keep going. So some things I do agree with. I like the hours, limiting the hours. I agree with the signage. And I guess I would add to condition 7, I would add window tinting too. So you can stack merchandise or you can put advertisements on a window, but you could also tint a window or put mirroring. I would add that to the conditions so that can't be done because I agree, you need to be able to look into the store. Because 2 employees up to 2 could be parked in the back, plus the delivery trucks are gonna be coming out. On the signage condition, I think we should, I know it's right in and right out, and that's what's expected, but I wouldn't put it past someone to try to go left around that median island. Kind of do a quick, hey, no one's coming, I'm gonna jut out and go westbound on Mount Diablo. So I would make that part of the condition, and there's a right turn only sign when the signage is added. To either add it to condition of approval 10 or 17, or have a separate condition. On the bike rack, I know I heard from staff that there's going to be space for bike parking, but is there specifically going to be a bike rack too that could offer security to lock a bike to, or is there just going to be a designated parking space? Here, park your bike here, little
Yeah.
Johnny from school, and it might get stolen.
Yeah, they've proposed a rack or a rack combined with a bike locker as well. I'm
Okay.
assuming if employees want to lock their bikes for a longer duration.
Okay, thanks. So those are my thoughts. For the trash and the recycling, I don't think the trash and the recycling should be brought through the store to be put up at the front of the store on trash day while it's open and there could be public in the store. So I think we should limit trash in that condition, add that they should be limited to only bring it out to the front of the store after hours. So, I just think it's gross and it's a health concern, and I wouldn't want trash coming through while I'm picking out some food. And lastly, I guess I'd say I can make the findings.
Okay. Any other comments? I'll just, and I appreciate that, and this is what I really like about the planning commission is that we all have independent opinions and we discuss them out in the public, in the open, because I think this is what all the people who are watching want us to do. So I wanted to kind of talk on a couple things. Even if AB 2097 wasn't part of this and this came to us and everyone was parking in the back, I'll be honest, I'd be a little skeptical. I'd probably be saying the same things because that use isn't going to park in the back, in my opinion, from what I do in my day job. Not going to park in the back. I've spent hours and hours on leases having to do with how parking is managed. And if you can't see from the parking spot to the door, that's not gonna go. So if everyone walked there, wouldn't be a problem. I already said, I don't believe people walk there. So what I think is gonna happen is they're gonna take all the spots in the front, which they have every right to, because it's public parking. But to me, that makes this detrimental. Well, let me think about that. So that's where I'm struggling. So I need to rethink about the findings if being detrimental to another business can cause me to not support a finding. I'm starting to waver on that a little, but I wanna think about it when I stop talking. You wanna say something?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't know, there happens to be a business next door that is active and thriving. But I don't know, if that's a fair reason to consider only I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think we should be considering just taking one business into account, because there are other close businesses in proximity to this project site. Just my thought on if you're,
No, I agree. And I mean, it could be any business there that has people. This is not about that business, although that is a business and they're the ones there. I think this use that's being proposed tonight will suck up all the parking for any one of those businesses. And I know there's 3 spaces up front and 2 are owned by the same group. But I feel it's going to be detrimental to all 3. 2 of them want it, so they don't care. The other one will care. So I'm struggling with that.
But I hear what you're saying, but owners of a business don't have a right to public parking. It's like the spot in front of my house is not my spot. It's for the public.
Right.
So if someone's in my spot that I think's my spot, I can't really do anything about it. Now, if they park there more than 72 hours, I'll do something about it. But I don't know. I guess that's my response.
I feel
It's the AB 2097 that is mucking this up.
well, and I get that, but I don't think the parking in the back matters for this use. There could be other uses that we'd say, look, you got to use that and it makes sense for the type of business you're doing. This type of business, they're not going to use that. They're not. It's not going to happen. So it doesn't matter to me.
Right, but if it's quick trips, like if you're running in to get a soda and you're in there 5 minutes, like the applicant was saying, I agree with that. It's quick in, quick out.
Yeah.
So is 4 spots enough in front?
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, you're in, you're out. You're gonna get gum. You're gonna get a pack of cigs. You're gonna get whatever. You're gonna jump back in your car and on your way, or you are gonna walk because there's all the residential around there. No, I agree. I think one of you said not everyone's gonna walk. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question of staff?
Please.
So back to the lift. If you don't make it, can it be construed as being discriminatory if you don't make accommodations for an employee that's disabled? And how can, I tend to agree with Commissioner Ratnich. You can't say, oh, hey, disabled employee, you have to, if the power goes out, you've got to go to this adjacent property and use their lift. I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, so maybe can't answer that on the discriminatory part. But I know we have shared parking agreements between property owners, but do we ever have anything like this with shared elevator agreement that could be tied to the deed or kept there permanently in perpetuity?
Not to my knowledge. And I would encourage the commission to not rely on a promise or written agreement
Agreed.
from an adjacent property owner. But I think the question is predicated on the presumption that the proposed lift would be inoperable and non-functioning. And so I'm trying to think of the, the city offices where we are. It's a sizable office building. There's one elevator, and there are, on occasion, it will malfunction. It needs to be repaired, and it's done so in short order. So I'm trying to distinguish this circumstance, the proposed, from a building that would require one elevator and how that would be any different. So you're right, we can't answer the discriminatory. I think that, provided that the code is met, and the code is extensive and detailed with respect to ADA access. I think provided that the code is met, that city officials are safeguarded from legal challenge in that regard.
Yeah, now that you're speaking, I mean, from a safety standpoint, if the employee is already in the store and they're wheelchair bound and the power goes out, they can always get out the front door. Now, if the power goes out while they're in the parking lot in the back, before they get up and go to work, the worst that would happen, at least the employee would be safe. They'd be not in the building, say the building was on fire. They just couldn't get to work. So that hurts the business owner, not necessarily the employee at that point. So, okay, I'm just kind of talking it out based on what you just said. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Vice Chair?
Clarifying question on condition of approval 5, construction storage. So it says storage of construction materials, portable toilets, debris must be stored and staged on the subject property for this project. So what is considered the subject property for this project? Would it include the drive aisle and a handful of this and the 6 parking spots that are allocated to this project? It wouldn't be the front walkway, right? It wouldn't be where the current parking is. Can you just help me understand what's considered the project property?
Yeah, so this is a standard condition of approval. It would be anything on the private property itself, so nothing on the sidewalk, in the street, public right of way. Any work or storage of materials in the public right of way, even if it's temporary, would require an encroachment permit from the engineering department. So, yeah, all of the construction equipment, anything needed for that would be like in the rear parking lot or inside the building itself, just on the site, not in the public right of way.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just making a point. Like, I do understand and I do appreciate that. Hopefully that happens. Thank you.
I have a,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Mr. Mason.
Question for staff, and I might as well address the elephant in the room. General welfare of the city. Now, I can look at that and not talking specifically about this. I can look at that any one of a number of ways. I remember when there used to be Butler County Dodge. Well, yeah, losing them was a large blow to the city tax base. I can't pretend that didn't affect the welfare of the city. I can't even, hey, I remember when this was Barclay Simpson Art Gallery. I've got one of their paintings hanging on my wall. So, I frequented that store. So they are one of the larger commercial tax-based businesses, because grocery stores don't really generate tax business. That and a few of the busier restaurants. So how is general welfare of the city affected that? And then also, let's face it, if they are correct and they are forced leave, that's going to really help our housing. And given the way the state laws are going, we'll have some monster 5-story project there, which also probably wouldn't help the housing, but wouldn't help the welfare of the city, because everybody's going to scream bloody murder. So, thank you.
Can I make a comment on your comment?
Sure.
So basically what you just asked staff is, y- so you asked their thoughts on general welfare to the city. That's a finding we have to make.
No, no, no,
So
no.
you're not asking staff
No, I'm not
to
asking
make
that.
the finding
I'm
or tell
asking,
you,
I'm asking that, hey, how do you define general welfare?
that's our job though, to make a finding how we deem it as,
But we're not all,
Planning
how
commissioner.
you define it and how I define it might be two different things.
exactly, that's why
And-
we deliberate up here.
Okay.
Yeah,
think
I mean,
that's your
like,
point. I think you can define it how you.
Yeah.
think is the
Yeah.
general.
Well, because, you know, one of the questions you raised was, hey, should we protect one business? Okay, and I'm saying that maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. But if the business is large enough, that affects the general welfare. And
Right.
That's what I was trying to get with this whole point. I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't. I just want to understand that, hey, no, you know, you can't, that doesn't include the general welfare.
but but what's before us tonight isn't about protecting the business of Diamond K. It's about providing the right to a property owner to develop their property as they see fit within the general plan and within the downtown specific plan. If we can make the findings, I just don't think we should make our decision based on the impact to Diamond K. Yeah, we can consider it. And as I stated earlier, the net parking loss to Diamond K is one spot. So does that constitute health, safety, general? I mean, I can't say that. Therefore, that's why I'm saying I can make the findings. Sorry, I just,
No, I think it's a
I
good
mean-
point, but I do think if, I think everyone has on this planning commission council has the ability to define that how you feel, right? And I agree, we're not here to put one business in the other, but I do think we have to look at the totality of what's happening. I will also say sometimes businesses have to adjust because, you know, for in this example, Diamond K has the benefit of public parking right in front of them. And now someone's gonna put some demand on that. And so they'll have to adjust their business if this were to go forward. I'm struggling with, you know, how much demand is fair for one group to put on another, because we really have zero guidance on that.
but I don't think the demand is allowed to be put because of AB 2097. So we can't put a demand on this business, even though we think the business should provide parking. And our mind says, yeah, it makes sense to have parking. And yeah, it's a silly waste to have 26 spots behind the building, but we can't use any of them because this assembly bill says we can't. That is frustrating.
But I mean, look at it this way. What if it was right next to a preschool and it generated a lot of cars and there was zero parking because AB 2097 said you didn't need it?
I'd be even more frustrated
But
about
then
AB
But then
2097.
maybe you would say, this is creating a nuisance. And that's why I think there's latitude in the findings for you to say, does that fit for you?
Agreed.
Yeah. So
So
I
you-
think that's
yeah.
where I'm struggling. And I think that's to your point, what you'll have to decide.
Mhm.
I don't think we're gonna be able to get an answer that is black and white for the engineers types or, you know, at this table.
Mhm.
So at some point, we're gonna have to get a motion on the table and decide what we're gonna do.
I'll make a motion.
With that said, does anyone have any questions before we do? Okay. Commissioner Heising.
Okay. And it's just gonna be a simple math problem, on this vote. So I recommend we find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt resolution 2024-3 with the conditions of approval listed with the modifications I mentioned. Condition 7, add to the conditions something about window tinting or mirroring that either no left turn out of the drive aisle or right turn only, however, whatever whatever MUTCD kind of sign requires. And that the trash not come through the building while there's people there buying food or during business operations, trash or recycling. That's my motion.
One clarification, did you say earlier about preventing a U-turn or is that just left out? You were saying left out?
Well, if you sign no left turn or right turn only, that'll prevent someone from doing that illegal maneuver.
No, I'm talking about like if you're going Mount Diablo westbound and you do, is that in a left?
Oh,
turn?
no, I was saying that some joker's gonna come out
here
that aisle
do
and
that.
want to go westbound on Mount Diablo, and they're gonna cut past the nose of that median
Yeah.
if no cars are coming in the
Right.
eastbound direction.
And I also think someone's gonna do a U-turn, which you're supposed to with the left turn lane go into, you can't do a U-turn off of that, I don't believe.
Right.
So I would add a friendly amendment that no U-turn be signed there. I don't know if we say that for the transportation, like that's their job, but I would think that would be a concern. A lot
There
of-
might already be a sign there. I don't know what's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we can add that.
Okay,
Why not?
all right, do we have a second on that?
Wait, you made a friendly amendment, but now you're not gonna vote, agree with me?
Well, no, a second for the motion.
Right.
I don't usually second the motions. Well, all right, second, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the motion fails 1-3.
Wait, it's 2-2. You made the second.
That doesn't mean I have to vote in the affirmative. I don't think it does it?
It does not obligate you. in
Oh,
any
you're
way.
right.
Just
It
wanted
it
to
merely
vote.
Oh, so,
puts the motion up for a vote. So just to clarify, there was a voice vote. I think staff heard it as 2-2, but
Well,
so-
let's just, for the clarity, we'll just go through it. Commissioner Mason,
Nay.
Commissioner Heising,
aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Nay.
Chair Labange, nay. So I read that as 3 nays and 1 yay, so the motion fails.
correct.
Okay. Okay. So there's no appeal period.
So now you have an option to entertain an additional motion.
Oh, okay. I will, if anyone has comments, my motion, and I apologize, I didn't mean to trip you up by adding that, but that was something that in my mind should have been added, but I still couldn't get past my personal position, so if anyone thinks anything will change this, please speak up, otherwise I don't necessarily know we would need another emotion.
I mean, I'm the only one that would make it and you guys, it's 3-1, so.
Okay,
You know, for the record, to be honest, I think this was obviously a tough one for all of us. We all looked at it differently, and I've said this before in the planning commission meetings is, even if things don't go the way you hope, I hope you come out of this thinking that, hey, we do take your concerns seriously, and, you know, we're sorry that it didn't work out the way you wanted.
all I would ask for the parties is, I do think there's an opportunity for the two parties to work together specifically, because it is important to me. And the specific reason why I didn't support this was the nuisance to the business, the other businesses there. So I would not have a problem if this came back and the businesses that were affected came to some agreement. That's basically these two parties in the room. I don't know how you do that. That's up to you guys, but I'm just saying, if it came back and there was a way that businesses could live together with this, you have every right to be there.
I guess I have a different take. This is a project that's in front of the entirety of the city and the entirety of the community. It wasn't, in my opinion, this wasn't owner A and owner B trying to figure out whose business should get to be in Lafayette. I made the findings. I was not able to make the findings based on my role as a planning commissioner compared to the general plan and my job as a planning commissioner, looking at the entirety of the community and at the entirety of the city. Not business A versus business B.
Yeah, and I don't, I mean, that's fine. If that's addressed to me, I'll just say I couldn't make a finding E, and that nuisance, I define what the nuisance is. And so I'm comfortable with what I said, not going after you, but, and I'm glad you said your piece. Anyone else have any piece they want to say?
One last thing. I was actually rather disappointed that we did not get a response for the owners of Desco Plaza. My feeling is that right at the beginning of the driveway, that's where people are gonna park and run over to, you know, the Circle K, because it's not that far. Compared to going parking at Trader Joe's and going through the light. And Trader Joe's parking lot is already impacted. And I don't know the city's parking lot, but I would have liked to have heard from the owner and some of the tenants there about their parking situation. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done with this.
So you have 4 commissioners here tonight. 2 have not heard it, but are anticipated at future meetings. We did not bring to you a denial resolution, which we would ask you to adopt by an affirmative vote. So at this point, based on what we have heard from the majority of the commission, and that the motion to approve failed, there are other motions that could be put forward, but if the motion were to deny the application at this point in time, we would recommend a continuance so that we can bring back a denial resolution for you to review, have it reflect what we heard, and you can make appropriate edits to it as you see fit. So we'd recommend a continuance to the next meeting at this time.
Okay, and just so if we weren't to do that, what would happen? If we didn't continue it, just so I'm clear, we just would have to come up with a resolution right now? A denial resolution? Is that why I'm fine with continuing it for that. I'm just trying to understand the process.
Correct. You could make a decision, either to, the 3 options open to the commission this evening are to approve outright or subject to conditions, to deny with prejudice or without, but you would need the approval. You have a resolution which lays out why you are making the approval. You don't have a resolution laying out why you would be making the denial, but you could do so verbally this evening by going through each of the findings and stating the reasoning behind, or you have the ability to continue the matter. So those are that's the full sum of, and a continuance would result if there's a deadlock on any and every motion, and you can't achieve a affirmative vote on any motion.
If we continue it, is it also open for an approval vote potentially in the future? as
Yes.
well? Okay.
So
Okay.
it is uncommon, but we have been directed to bring back both an approval resolution and a denial resolution, kind of laying out the arguments for and the arguments against, and then the hearing body evaluates the merits of both of those and comes to a decision, which to some degree that you have done. We just did not bring that second based on our recommendation.
Well, unless anyone on the commission has an issue with it, I would ask that the staff bring both an approval and denial, and we continue it tonight. Does anyone have any problems with those? And we would do this by motion?
Correct.
Okay.
I would just assume, you know, deal with it tonight, one way or the other. I mean, this is tough for all of us, and it's not, this gets down to our personal feelings and dealings with, you know, how we define certain things. And, you know, going through this a second time, isn't necessarily easier.
The only reason I was thinking that is we have two who aren't here tonight. And, you know, so I would be fine with having them, I mean, I personally wouldn't mind that, but that's a good point. Anyone else have a point? Anyone want to make a motion?
We've already been here an hour and a half, and next time with 6 people will probably be 2 hours.
I know, but this is people's business. I think we owe it to them to hash it out, quite frankly. So if no one will make a motion, I will make a motion, which I've never done before.
Well,
I
I'll
will
make,
do it
I
tonight.
will, I'll make a motion, but you know what my motion will be.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion. I move that we continue this matter and we ask staff to bring both a resolution of approval with the things that we've outlined tonight and a resolution of denial. And that we hear it at the next planning commission meeting. Do I have a second? Can I second my own?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
No, you may not.
Before the second. So it does mean that next time it would come in front of us again with the full staff report, the full or staff presentation, applicant's presentation, public comment, and then a vote and discussion.
Procedurally, you would follow the same steps. Because you have heard it before, we would not go to the same length of presentation, and presumably the commission would not have the same length of discussion and deliberation. It would be more concise. Hopefully, the applicant would not make, you know, a full presentation anew. In order to participate, those who are not present this evening would, by practice, review either the meeting video or the minutes, read the staff report, state affirmatively that they have that familiarity to be able to move forward with deliberation and discussion and action at the next meeting. So it would be condensed.
So my thought is, even if the two commissioners who aren't here tonight were to vote in favor of the project, we're still at a deadlock.
And also
So-
doesn't mean that somebody else, one of us.
Right, and someone might switch is the other thing.
No, I was saying somebody might not be here. We may have 4 people, but it might be a different 4 people. To me, that's kind of like gaming the system.
Don't be absent.
Yeah. When is this coming back? What date would this be coming back?
Your next regular meeting is April 1.
Spring break for all the
Well,
schools.
but we might, let's talk about that later, because that's a different thing.
So the meeting following that is 2 weeks following, so April 15. So you could continue it to April 15.
April 15th. All right,
But
there
I'm
is a
not able
motion on
to-
the table. Do we have a second? My first motion, and so this, okay, that's fine. Does anyone else? Just say what you want then. You don't have to put a motion, but just where are you thinking? Do you want to move forward? Do you want to call it a day now? What do you want to do?
I'd like to call it
I'd
a
ra-
day now.
I'd rather move forward and have a chance for either people to change their minds or there to be enough votes to garner an approval, so I'll second it. But I'm not I reluctantly second it because we're not approving it tonight, so, but I'll second it.
Okay, so then the motion has been seconded, so let's just do a roll call vote. I'll call it Commissioner Mason,
Nay.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Nay,
man, Chair Labange, yay, so that's 2-2, so it does not pass.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move that we continue the item to April 15th and bring back a denial resolution.
Second.
all right, I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Heising,
Nay.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
Chair Labange, nay. So we're kind of stuck. So, and I appreciate what everyone's doing, but unless, oh, sorry.
So the staff heard the last 2 motions being continued to the next meeting, bringing back an approval and denial resolution. That motion failed to.
Right.
Vice Chair Radnich's motion was to continue to the 15th and bring back solely a denial resolution.
Right.
So that we note the difference in the meeting date as well as what will be brought back. But so the motions may have hinged on the date rather than what comes back.
I feel everyone up here voted, irrespective of date, no on both of those. I'm sorry. That didn't pass either one, irrespective of date. So whether we brought both back or just the denial. So we're still deliberating.
Well, so the latter, all due respect, the latter motion presumed that it didn't give the chance for the other two commissioners to make a decision. I mean, it's
They can vote against it.
but it didn't give the project and the applicant an opportunity to get a successful vote for their project.
In my opinion, it does, because the difference of the two, yes, I acknowledge the date difference, right? Because I've been counting for spring break, which today is a day off school, and why I'm guessing people had a 3-day weekend, maybe not here. Why they're not here. 2.5. Yeah. The difference though, is what we're bringing back. Is it either 2 resolutions that we have right in front of us? Or is it only one or the other? Someone tonight could make a resolute or a recommendation, a motion that we, well, no, we can't, that we bring back only an approval. But in my mind, if someone's going to not like the denial, they can vote against the denial on the 15th, was my thought process.
But then we're just causing a whole nother meeting. I mean, I'll be honest. part
Well,
of
then
my-
you're back to Greg's point, then why not just make a motion to deny it tonight?
Well, I'll answer that. I'm struggling with this. This was not a bright line for me. And I did express to both the applicant and anyone else that I would like to see them talk and try to figure out something that they could both live with. If this came back with some discussion amongst that, because my specific reason I voted against it had to do with the very, sorry, I want to make sure I quote it right, create nuisance or enforcement problem within the neighborhood. That was very local to me. So if that local neighborhood came to some agreement, that would probably go away. So this just gives us 2 weeks to see what they can come up with. Assuming we do the exact same thing, all it does is see if they do anything. If they can't, then we have 2 other council members and planning commissioner, excuse me, and we'll see where it is. So I'm kind of hedging my bet a little. I don't think it's unfair to anyone. Unless, because we were actually all voting the same way, so that's where I am. I think it's a hedge, right? So it's not perfect, but this isn't perfect where we are. And we have one business who's trying to thrive and another business who's trying to not be impacted. So we're kind of stuck between 2 of them. So I'm trying to see what else can come to us in 2 weeks or whenever our next one is.
Here's where my problem is with this whole discussion is I don't have trouble arguing traffic counts and stuff like that, but there's a lot of fuzzy words here, nuisance and stuff like that. And I don't feel comfortable telling somebody else that, you know what, you're wrong. That is a nuisance or stuff like that, because that's in some ways insulting and demeaning because you have your own definitions of these very fuzzy words. And I have mine. And, the common respect we've always shown is, hey, we respect everybody's else's viewpoints. And, yeah, they could also get together and come back some other time too. They don't have to come back in a couple weeks. They can appeal it to the city council and say, hey, we got together and we did this. I've known the Diamond Cave for ever. I know that they've been, I designed the building where the city offices were. I know that they tried to buy Diamond Cave back then, the developer Desco. I know that they've always thought about people walking across in front of all their stuff with people, parking. And I know that if they went out, people would have to go, I think the next there, closest one is Concord of Summer. But, you know, I think for a city of Lafayette, that business doesn't really fit in, but I think that they have made as much as possible. And, you know, I don't bringing two more people in and they may be losing the person if we have it the 8th or something like that. This isn't gonna really change anything.
And I appreciate that. The thing you started with was respecting each other's opinion, and I agree, and I actually want to hear what they have to say, because I don't like denying things here unless I'm really don't think it.
Mhm.
And this one, I'm really struggling with. And so I really want to see what they can do, and I want to see what our other planning commissioners bring to the table, assuming we don't change a lick. I might, I don't know. So that's where I am. So we need to get past tonight at least. So any ideas about that?
Well, let's go back to Anna's motion and walk it through. So say there's only a denial reso that comes. And say Farshad and Christina and I. Well,
Vote
if
against.
it's deadlocked, if we go against it, if we deny the denial resolution, then we're stuck. We're still stuck.
Yeah.
So isn't it better to get a denial tonight and just get it over with and the applicant can appeal? Even though that's not what I want.
Well, I mean, if you're asking staff,
Well, is there another idea though that we're not thinking of?
well, I think the idea is if they come, I'm just gonna speak and then staff, if they come back, I might have a different opinion. I might.
Well, that's why we should have an approval resolution at the next meeting then. So
I
it's equal.
agree. I agree. I think we should have both so that we can handle it either way and we can all sit and look at each other and say, okay, we heard everything. We gave them a chance. They did what they could. Here we are. It's almost like a de novo reading next meeting. We have whoever else is here. Maybe it's just us.
Well, it shouldn't be de novo because the other two should get up to speed by
I
watching.
mean,
the
they should,
video.
yeah, but
Right. And so staff will renew our recommendation to continue to the 15th, that date, to ensure maximum availability of commissioners, with both resolutions coming back, and you have both options open to you. The second option would be simply to continue it without direction of staff with, on the resolutions, and we will use our professional judgment to bring you the best package to support your deliberations and decision-making.
Before we make another,
Oh, I apologize. And the last point is, there is a, burden to approve, and the default is a lack of approval or otherwise a denial. So unless and until there is a majority vote to approve, the project is not approved. So if there's like simply a stalemate or the inability to get to a majority vote to approve, the project is not approved. It's disapproved.
without a resolution, it can just be.
Well, the resolution is, it has failed to be approved
approved.
and
So-
thus a de facto denial. It's rare to kind of get to that territory after,
So is
there's
that
a hearing.
even appealable?
That would be appealable, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, it's rare not to have a formal action, but, I think the city attorney can advise on when that would become ripe for appeal to the city council.
And I know you're not gonna, you just said you're not gonna. be
yeah, so I just realized I'm actually not gonna be here on the 15th, so I would like to, either
That's,
kind of,
that's better.
yeah. I would like to, make a new motion.
The 6th. That's the next one. That's the 15th. I just found out I'm not gonna be here either, so.
The first,
No.
April 1st is our first.
Right, but we already said we're not, cause that's school break.
Well, but I don't think we can,
And then the 15th, you're not,
yeah, but I feel we can't, I
Can't
feel
share.
we're getting into the exact same situation that we potentially had tonight. who's gonna be here, who's not, and as much as I know I'm not gonna be here on the fifteenth, it sounds like you're not gonna be here on the fifteenth either. We can't skew when we bring it back necessarily to get the vote that we want.
It's not to get the vote, it's to get the people.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm just like
Mhm.
making the like,
You
the
can't, pick-
general
you
statement.
can't pick your availability based on that.
Right. But I mean,
How you think people are.
there's the same reason why we say, oh, it's spring break and things like this. We know we're gonna have quorum issues. We can also say, hey, most likely this is a date that will be past quorum issues. We're down one person already.
Yeah. So my question is, I'm just looking at the calendar on Chair's screen. So we have a meeting April 1st, a meeting April 15th. Then we don't have a meeting again until May 6th. And I thought the PSA deadline, it says on here, is April 7th. So does that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Correct. So on that note, we would need, the affirmation and consent from the applicant to make a continuance to what is the next date, which would be May 6th, in order to have all of the members available to opine on it. And absent that, I think you would be essentially forced into a denial because you do not have the votes for an approval.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna to go with.
So the chair would ask the applicant if
Okay.
if they are amenable to that continuance in order to get the full, and it is appropriate and practice to, when there is motions have failed and there's no clear majority vote, to continue to a future date where more members are present. Usually that future date offers an odd number of commissioners, but you are in the circumstance of one vacancy currently. So
Very odd.
Can I ask one more question from staff's perspective? So I heard that we can have a motion for approval, a motion for denial, or a situation where you don't have enough votes to affirm a project. So in staff's recommendation, would, generically speaking, would it be staff's preference to have both prepare a resolution both for approval and denial? So that at a future meeting, at a continued meeting, and then that way there's a clear
action.
vote? Yeah,
The clear action, yes, that would be by far the preference, and I believe that would be the preference of the council as well, to have clarity with respect to kind of the decision that was reached and how that decision was reached. And it could be simply that it was a 3-3 split, and that was ultimately the vote, and that is information, and you'll articulate the arguments for and against. And so that is informative to the council and best practice.
Okay, then, as much as my preference is to just do the denial tonight, I would like to make a motion.
Please.
I move that we continue the item to the first meeting in May. And that we request staff to prepare both an approval resolution, which incorporates Commissioner Heising's motion and the amendments to the conditions of approval that he made tonight, along with the friendly amendment that Chair Labange made about if it's applicable to the project versus a city issue for the no U-turn.
Even though he didn't vote for it.
And part of my motion that staff also bring back a resolution for denial of the project.
Second. Oh.
Can I make a friendly amendment? Can I add that it's contingent upon having a full committee here of 6 members? Because that's the whole reason why we're putting it off, isn't it?
But 5 isn't bad either.
5
Yeah.
isn't bad.
Yeah, how about,
It's odd.
5,
yeah. 5,
yeah, 5.
it's your call. You want to accept that?
I don't think you can
Yeah,
make
I-
a motion that requires a certain amount of commissioners to be here.
Well, but 5 breaks it, will break.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
down.
obviously, but
But keep in mind too, that they will have the benefit of getting to review what we've said, so.
yeah.
But again, what I'm worried about is setting a precedence where, okay, let's game the system, spring breaks week, we'll set a meeting then because I know these two people who are.
But we're all here together and you're talking to the gamers. We're
Well,
not,
know that.
I mean, but.
We're here for virtually all of them.
Right, well, they're here too. I don't think we have to worry about each other gaming the system. We would call that out if we saw that. And I don't think, we know we're not, I don't think we're gaming it right now. So I don't think we need to protect against something.
The reality, oh, sorry to cut you off. The reality too is if it's us 4, chances are going to vote in the same way we voted tonight. And if it's deadlock, let's just say one commissioner changed their mind, it would be deadlock and that's what would go to city council, or if it was appealed, right?
Well, no, that's not my concern. My concern is, okay, we had a 3-1 vote essentially against it tonight. And let's say, for example, that come the first, you and I aren't here, and now it's 4 different people, 2 new people, and all of a sudden now it's 3-1-4, when we basically both commissions have heard the same thing and voted differently based solely on who's there. And I didn't want to set that up as a precedent. Yes, I trust everybody here. But that's what I was referring to, because we all have other things going on in our lives. We can't make all the meetings. And, we deal with a lot of stuff that's a lot more bigger and more public than this.
So what do you want to ask? though?
So-
I agree with you, but let's get to what we practically can do. I mean, we trust each other as a.
So here's practically what we can do. There's a motion and a second. I say we vote on that motion. And then let's just make a motion and vote on it and be done, because the longer we're talking now, when Commissioner Farsan and Sturm watch this video, we're gonna look, the more inept we're looking right now because we can't figure out what we're doing. So let's
we
just
are-
We
vote.
actually only have a motion. We had a friendly
No,
amendment, which
you made the motion and the chair seconded it.
I mean, I'll just say, please, I'm just, because we were both talking and you said it, I don't want to usurp what he said. So he made a friendly amendment. It's
I
to
would
you.
say no, thank you to the friendly.
Okay,
amendment.
so then I second it. So now we're gonna have a roll. I'm gonna call names. This is to move it to the first meeting in May, which is the 6th, with an affirmative and a denial resolution, right? And then with all the exceptions or all the additions that you already stated. I'm just trying to get us back into planning.
We understand
Yeah.
the motion as it stands. We would ask you to consult the applicant.
Oh, yes.
Regarding the
Yes,
extension.
thank you. I was gonna vote to see if we have to before, and then, or do you want me to ask before we vote?
Please ask before the vote.
Okay, so I'd ask the applicant if you would be willing to continue this to May 6th, given that there's a deadline. Okay, and they said yes, so, okay, so now we're gonna vote, and I'm gonna do a name call vote. And I'm trying to, I wanna think for a second. A yay is saying we would do this, a nay is saying, no, you don't want to do what Vice Chair Radnich. So, Commissioner Mason,
Nay.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
Chair Labange, aye. Okay, so that motion passes 3-1, that we will continue that to the 6th and everything else stated.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who's here for those 2 things. And then we still have business. So our next business is other business. ARC volunteer, I'm assuming that's for this Friday? Next Friday?
It would be next Friday.
Okay. That's the
29th.
29th. I think I can do it. I've not done one in a long time. So you can put me down for the 29th.
Thank you.
And is it still like a certain time on
9:30 by Zoom,
9:30 by Zoom?
but
Okay.
if you have a conflict, we can
Nope.
find another time.
As soon as I put it in here, I'll have no conflict there. Now that time is taken. Nobody can take it. Conflict free. All right. And then commissioners report? Anyone?
Nope.
Anyone? Okay. Planning directors report?
I was asking my colleague Anna, you did act on the consent calendar earlier, correct? I think I was having technical issues and so my
Yes,
focus
yes, we
was-
did.
Okay, terrific.
Yep.
Thank you for that. If you're a subscriber to the weekly roundup, we have nothing new or additional to add. We continue our dogged efforts to meet state housing community developments comments and direction on the housing element to bring it into full compliance in their view. We continue to go back to the council thus far at every meeting for the last 3 meetings, moving from February 12th onward. So that is taking up substantial staff time. Projects like 950 Huff are mobilized and currently working. So that's good to see. Madison Park, just south of this building, is fenced off with the structures demoed and it's on the market. Madison Park across the street to the north is stalled and the entitlements have lapsed. So it's a difficult climate for development right now, particularly focused around, clearly land costs, labor costs, material costs, but the tipping point seems to have been the high interest rates and the unavailability of loans essentially to do work. But so not favorable conditions for that.
Did you say the one just to the south is on the market?
Yes.
So on the market entitled and then demoed, they're selling it as an entitled demoed project, just ready with CDs. I don't know if their CDs are done, but
I don't believe CDs are done, but correct. Entitlement and.
did you
and
guys know
demo.
that?
Mm-mm.
I didn't know that. Huh. All right.
I don't know if you're the right person. So in one of the emails, it's the weekly digest or the weekly roundup. One of the emails from Lafayette, a lot of times there's really good housing news articles.
Yes.
I find, maybe I don't know how to access them, so I'm mentioning it for the public. They're often through, I think, San Francisco Chronicle.
Yes.
Seems like you might need a subscription to view those, or am I just not doing it right?
You are doing it right. So there are paywalls. So there are 2 electronic newsletters essentially that come out from the city. There's the Almost Daily Briefing,
Oh, yeah, that's it.
which is almost daily, and it's a briefing of topics, news articles on topics salient to the work that we do as local government and salient to the community as well. Housing, transportation, policing, basically what the core services are. And those can be local stories, but can be statewide or even nationally. But so not uncommon to get articles, regarding Southern California and housing or transportation. You like it. The weekly roundup is local focus. So it is doings and upcoming events for Lafayette, Moraga, Orinda, Lamarinda, and the surrounds. So it is very, very focused on things that have happened and will happen. So there are paywalls for some of the articles. And if you have a subscription, you can get them. I don't know. I know that your library card offers you access to a lot of resource, like the New York Times. You can access the New York Times
did not know
without a subscription, just by logging in and to digital resources. So you go to Contra Costa County Library .org, digital resources, click your resource, and then you use your library card to access.
Good to know.
So I don't know if that's true of the San Francisco Chronicle, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, thank you.
That's
Were you done with the, I
That's all I
cut you
had.
off earlier, no?
all I had.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right, we are, unless there's anything else, we're adjourned. Boom.
Before we leave the room, we are soliciting applicants to fill the vacant seat. So please do reach out to your networks and good people that you know and encourage them to submit an application to join you on Monday evening. Thank you.
I don't know, it's a tough crowd here.
It's been a really demanding year.
Tough crowd, I don't know if anyone wants this.